Mm. That's my camera. Good evening, DD. Good evening, everyone. Chaya, can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's class. My name is Godson Onko, and I'm a member of the region. I'm going to be moderating today's class. So as you join, you drop your names on the chat box and your party for attendance. Today, we are going to be talking about electoral acts. You know, it's one topic that generates a lot of conversations, and sometimes most people don't even know the content of the electoral act, but they discuss about it without information. But today, our executive director is going to be taking us through the electoral acts, and it's one kind of interesting conversation that we're going to have today. So I urge you to pay attention and then ask questions, right? When the class is over, after the ask a lot of questions. Whatever you don't understand, ask a lot of questions. Our ED is a working constitution, a mobile constitution. Um, he has deep knowledge about all of these things. So today, we have our executive director. You already know him. He's going to be taking us on electoral acts. A passionate man, somebody that have sacrificed so much for our country and has continued, to give back to this country in so many ways. At this point, I want to hand over the platform to him, to take us on today's class. Thank you, Edie.
Well, thank you very much, Godson, and it's a pleasure to be. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Labour Party for winning the first elections. I would also like to congratulate every other party that gave their time, put in their actions. I would like to also congratulate those who had the time to write petitions. I believe the elections were fair. I saw some, thumbs down, which shows that even if an election is automated, people will still disagree. So the elections were done on Telegram, was fully automated, and the answers were directly in front of you. Like we always say, politics most of the time is emotional by most people, and you find yourself in a quagmire when what you desire doesn't get the position, and then you hear the kind of conversations, not my president, etc., etc. Well, the Constitution is clear on this, that regardless of what you feel, the president of Nigeria remains the president of the Republic of Nigeria. So it's not your personal emotion. It's validated by the Constitution and backed by the Constitution. If his office is validated. Elections, we've seen people actually act in ways that, which are shocking, and you find yourself asking yourself that, come on, this is not an election just in the group, or is this not something within the group? So, elections, the Nigerian Electoral Act. Now, so we'll just be focusing on the amendment which will change in 2022, if I'm right, the amendments of 2022. And those amendments were, of course, still amended fully in 2023. Oh, no, 2022. Finally, 2022, towards the end of 2022. And they were what dictated the way the elections in 2023 were. I know everybody has an emotional perspective to the electoral actions within, let's say, jurisdictions of who you supported, who you didn't support, who you were with, who you weren't with, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these are all good things. These are all good for a democracy because there must be discerning views in a democracy. That doesn't make them right. I need to put this here. There will be discerning views in a democracy. That doesn't make them right. Over the course of the 14th court, we've had people exchange conversations and state that what we're doing within the college was I remember somebody writing judge, jury, and executioner for the college. Yes, the college is judge, jury, and executioner. If you don't like it, go start your own college. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. We follow the Electoral Act, follow the Constitution. We follow laid down rules and standards that are applicable to realistic life situations. So we don't make these laws, neither do we choose how they operate. That means we're not here for, benefit of your total mental health and etc. Well, most people say, oh, you need mental health. If you want to have to discuss mental health, I'll tell you to read politics law. So today, the Nigerian Electoral Act. My name is Kunle Lawal, executive servant of the Electoral College Nigeria, and we'll be having a conversation on the Electoral Act. So, Talia, could I have next slide, please? Thank you very much. Okay, while Charlotte is trying to figure out the next slide and etc., I'd like to ask a question, and you can answer in the chat box. What has been your position or your thinking about the Electoral Act and etc.? What have you massively thought about it? Has it made sense? Has it not made sense? What has it been to you? Excuse me. What has it been to you as a Nigerian? How have you felt it could be? So a basic introduction will be in exercise of the powers conferred by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, and the Electoral Act 2022, as amended. The following, as contained in it, are regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections, and this, of course, refers to general elections, by-elections, rerun elections, and supplementary elections in Nigeria. So the Electoral Act covers every type of elections in Nigeria, regardless of what, parameters they are, general, by, rerun, and supplementary elections in Nigeria. Next slide, Father. So the Electoral Act 2022. It focuses and realigns the establishment and functions of INEC. We all know that INEC has always been under the jurisdiction of the National Assembly. It helps modify, these particular parameters into, of course, more breakable positions. And also is the regulation of Nigerian registration of voters, and voter registration were also changed a little bit in the 2022 amendments. The procedure of elections also were changed a little bit. And then political parties were also, as of 2019 elections, everybody will remember Nigeria had close to, I think, about 92 political parties at the time. And the Electoral Act 2022 further defines, although the older act actually clearly defines that if you had if the party didn't take a position, I think as low as State House of Assembly, or in local government as low as local government chairman, within a cycle of election, it should be scrapped. And a lot of parties went down and went from 92 political parties to 18, which we have today, which we had to participate in the 2023 election. Now, electoral offenses were also amended in the Electoral Act 2022. I hope a copy of the Electoral Act was posted in the group. This Maureen was a copy of the Electoral. Yes, it was, so that you guys. So the Electoral Act is too massive for us to sit down and explain in a 1-hour class. It's not going to work. So you can have the Electoral Act, go through this, and focus. We just focus on the main modifications and changes, which are prevalent in the Electoral Act 2022. So Charlie, our next slide, please. So key changes in the 2022 amendments. The new act establishes the Independent Electoral Commission Fund. And the Electoral Commission Fund, of course, is now that. So budgets then. Charlie, could you expand it? I can't read it from distance. It expired, of course. So wherein payment from the federal government, investments made from the fund and other ads and grants, and the commission will perform the functions to perform its functions. Furthermore, the act stipulates that the election due to the commission or any other general election are to be released later than a year before the general election. The provision grants financial autonomy to the commission, as it may now receive funds for the conduct of elections directly, as opposed to getting funds subsequent to vetting of the Ministry of Finance as provided by the former act. So in 2019, what we used to have was the INEC puts out its budget. I remember the 2019 elections had to be moved because the budgets were provided way behind the time of the or not in good enough time for INEC to conduct the elections. The elections had to be moved a little bit. I remember I was part of that elections, and I remember I was postponed just a little. So had to be postponed. As part of 2019 elections, had to be postponed, due to reasons that the funds that were actually allocated were not provided earlier. And these funds could not be utilized as of the day of election. So the new INEC fund means that investments are always made, the new ones to donate to the elections, etc., are always being put in a place. And the federal government, once INEC releases budgets like 2 years before, it must provide that particular amount of fund of money exactly before time of the election. Next slide. Charlie, you have to magnify it too small. So the new act provides that the commission shall, not later than 360 days before the day appointed for holding an election under this act, publish a notice in each state of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory stating the date of the election, appointing the place at which the nomination papers are to be delivered. This notice is to be published in each constituency in respect of which an election is to be held. This is in contrast to the provision of the erstwhile Electoral Act, that's 99 Electoral Act, which provided that the commission should publish this notice not later than 90 days before the date of election. The effect of this extension on time is to give the commission more time to prepare for the election and also give political parties no excuse as regards the candidacy and the partisan and propaganda politics that comes with choosing a candidate and preparing for a campaign. However, for by-elections, the new act retains the same provision as the old act, as the time frame for publishing a notice stating the date of election is 14 days. Someone is saying my voice is breaking. Is that the situation for everyone?
No, I think that's his network. I can hear you loud and clear.
Is that the situation for everyone?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, Lisa, are you there?
Yes, we can hear you, Edie.
Lisa, are you there? Is that the situation for everyone, was the question I asked?
No. It's probably his own network.
Lisa.
Can you hear me, Edie? I'm responding to you.
Said?
Can you hear me? I was responding to you.
Can anybody, Charlie or anybody that has... I can't hear you, Lisa. You are going off and on. I can't.
Can you hear me, Edie? Your voice is loud and clear.
Yeah, I can hear you, Gotson.
Yes, your voice is loud and clear.
Okay.
So I think it's from his network. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Charlie, could I have the next slide, please? So extension of time frame on publication of election notice has also affected time for primaries. You notice, but we'll get to that. So engagement of early party primaries. So under the new act, political parties are mandated to submit the list of their sponsored candidates who may have emerged from valid primaries conducted by the party, not later than 180 days before the date appointed for the general election. This is in contrast to the former act, which prescribed in this submissions should not be done not less than 60 days before the date of general election. The change in the time frame is to submit the names of the party candidates from 60 days to 180 days. Makes it compulsory for political parties to conduct their primaries early enough and meet up with the submission of the list of candidates at least 180 days before general election. Now, I remember when I ran in 2019, our situation or our position then was concluded, or most primaries were concluded, I think about before first week of November in 2019. I remember mine was last week of October. And the submission and the list and whatever was compiled almost immediately because it had to be 60 days before the election. So I think the original list of the candidates came out by INEC, I think sometime before Christmas, which was putting it, no, a little bit before Christmas, sometime in December, but a little bit before Christmas, putting it 60 days before the election. And that's a relevant change in the situation of things. Could I have next slide, Italian? Now, extension of time frame of campaigns by political parties. Now, the new act provides that the period of campaigning in public for every political party shall commence 150 days before polling day and end 24 hours prior to the day. This is different from the provisions of the former act, which prescribe that campaigns shall commence 90 days prior to the polling day and end 24 hours to that day. The impact of this provision is the extended time given to political parties to disseminate their campaign messages to the populace and corresponding extended time for the electorate to decide what party and candidate to receive their votes. I think that this was very instrumental when this was included in 2022. It's very instrumental to us having, apparently, we have more governors of states for multiple parties than we've ever had in Nigeria's democratic circle. I believe we have in Abia, we have Labour, in Kano, we have NMPP, in Anambra, we have APGA, we have PDP, we have EPC, that's 5 already. That's 5 political parties already. And I think that's more than we've ever had. And the National Assembly, I believe we have 9 now, thanks to someone who, with a party, took over in Jos. It was 8 before, I think the rerun elections in Jos proceeded to 9, and 9 in the House. And we have 9 political parties in the House, which is larger than. So Nigerians now have more time based on this extension of time frame to begin to look at candidates and ask questions instead of just voting, the parties which you really know, or the parties which you feel you know, or the parties which you think you can remember their names and do a drop down. Simple, vote down. I'll be honest with you, I was part of a conversation preceding elections. And one of the key things that happened was we were having election discussions, and someone did not know that it was legal for you to vote maybe APC as president, Labour as a Senate, ADC as House of Rep, and then maybe go to governor and do the opposite way, governor, maybe SDP, and then State House of Assembly, APC. But many people they thought it was against a lot of this sort of things, and it turned out to be that this extension has enabled more candidates to be able to have time to campaign, be able to electorate to decipher what would be necessary within people, and in the end, I think it was better for the Nigerian people. So try the next slide. Now, there's also this new act makes provision for the Central Electronic Voter Database. So the new act provides that the Commission shall keep the register of voters at its national headquarters and other locations, provided that the register shall be kept in electronic format in the central database, in addition to being kept in manual or hard copy format. Under the former act, the register was kept in manual or hard copy format only. The provision is laudable as it would promote transparency and effectiveness in the Commission's record keeping and in tracking the number of registered voters who will be voting in the upcoming elections, thereby curbing illegal voting and unregistered voters. If you notice, since the law came out, there's been a lot of differences. When most people have what we call so we'll get to that part. Let me not preempt it because it's still there. But we've been able to curb issues where you have multiple voting and issues with this because of this present act. I can tell you in 2011 in Nigeria, there's no clear-cut number of people that voted or participated in the elections and etc. Excuse me. And that was a big problem. Charlie, could I have the next slide, please? So revision of the definition of voting. I knew it was next slide, so I didn't want to define it. So under the new act, where the new number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of accredited voters in that polling unit, the presiding officer shall cancel the result of the election in that polling unit. Number of accredited voters refers to the number of intending voters accredited to vote in an election on the day of the election. Under the former act, it is when the number of votes cast in an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of registered voters in that polling unit. That's when the presiding officer may cancel the election in that polling unit. Based on the provisions of the new act, overvoting would mean where votes cast at the polling unit exceeds the number of accredited voters, not the number of registered voters as provided by the former act. So let me break this down. So before this electoral act, what used to happen was, if let's say there were 1,000 voters, and let's say Owerri 2 polling units, there were 1,000 voters. Regardless of who was accredited and who wasn't accredited, as long as you didn't exceed 1,000 voters, all was gained. Even if 600 people came out, as long as the number that was put in did not exceed 1,000, it was gained and it was fine. But now it focuses on the accredited number of voters, meaning the people who were there that day. So if the people there that day were 700, you cannot have 1,000 votes coming out of the polling unit. And that's the new difference between this electoral act. And if you notice, we've had a case of overvoting. I think it worked with the preceding Ondo election, multiple elections that we've been having. And we might see it with the Edo elections and etc. And this overvoting and this position will be cancelled and put down. So next slide, please. So the Independent Electoral Commission's power of review. Now, under the new act, INEC has the power to review the final decision of the returning officer in respect of questions of unmarked ballot papers, rejected ballot papers, declaration of scores of candidates, and the return of a candidate within 7 days of the decision, and return where the declaration was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law or the guidelines of the election. Under the provisions of the former act, the decision of the returning officer was only subject to review by an election tribunal or court. However, it appears that under the new act, the election tribunal or court. Charlie, what's going on, please? Well, it appears that under the new act, the election tribunal or court could still review the returning officer's decision, but the act is unclear as to whether this is to be done after INEC's review or can replace INEC's review process totally. It is in my view that this should be after the INEC's review, meaning that's my own personal view, but doesn't mean necessarily that is what it is. So INEC has within 7 days can upturn any election based on what it thinks it is, based on the fact that it feels the returning officer was under duress or there were some anomalies that occurred. So INEC has that power. If INEC chooses not to use that power, then it's because the people already do not know INEC has that power, and INEC plays dumb and lets it go as regards such information. Could we have the next slide, please? Sorry. So exclusion of political appointees from acting as voting delegates or aspirants. Now, under Section 84(12) of the new act, it stipulates that no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at a convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of the nomination of candidates for any election. This means that political appointees must relinquish their position before they are eligible to participate in the electoral process, either as a candidate or as a delegate. Remember that political appointees are totally different from what they call it, what you refer to as elected appointees. Elected appointees were brought in by election, so of course they can participate as whatever. So and they can also, be around. But political appointees are not allowed now to participate as voting delegates or as aspirants. So in the case of, if you remember, I think Buhari's SA Media, I can't remember his name now, but he used to be very troublesome on Twitter. They had to relinquish his position, go and run for a position in Kano and come back. And so did a lot of others. And we saw how that went. Though it's not, some of them came back to what they were supposed to come back to, and it ended up working well. But let's see how it goes. Next slide, please. So death of electoral candidates. Now, the death of a candidate in an election had generated lots of bickering among political parties and politicians in the past under the former act, leading to cases in our courts. To cure some of this mischief in the former act, the new act provides that where before the commencement of a poll, a candidate dies, the election shall be postponed and shall commence within 14 days of the candidate's death. Where a candidate dies after the poll or before the announcement of the final winner of the elections or final results, the implication is that the election will be suspended for no more than 21 days. Where the election is for a legislative house position, the election shall start afresh, and the political party whose candidate died may, if it intends to continue to participate in the election, conduct a fresh primary within 14 days of the death of the candidate and submit the name of the candidate to the commission to replace the dead candidate. For gubernatorial and presidential and FCT area council elections, the running mate shall continue with the election as the new candidate and nominate a new running mate. So I hope this is clear. This goes back to the Kogi situation in 2019, which brought Yaya Bello, which caused quite a lot of confusion. And the person who took second in the primaries became the governor. So now the new act, Faleke, who ran with that dead governor, the governor who won, who was dead. Now Faleke would have been the governor instead of Yaya Bello in Kogi State. That's a practical example for what this says. We have the next slide, please. Pardon. So technological changes in the election process. Now, under the new act, the use of electronic devices such as smart card readers, electronic voting machines, and other technological devices are allowed in the accreditation process for voters in the general conduct of elections. Furthermore, the new act provides for electronic transmission of results in accordance with the procedure determined by the commission. Please, I want you to underline in accordance with the procedure determined by the commission. Remember what happened with Beavers. I'll be honest. INEC promised. INEC said a lot. But I'll also be honest with you. The law cannot query INEC. It's just the morality of INEC that is in question. Because the law clearly states, in accordance with the procedure determined by the commission. Meaning the commission can choose any procedure it chooses to follow, and we would adhere to it. So hence the conversation and, the arguments. INEC should have done this, INEC should have listened to this, INEC should have taken election. INEC, the power lies in INEC. So because we've seen 2023 elections, we can say there could be a push for an amendment of this part that not in accordance with the procedure determined by the commission, but in accordance with the procedure determined by technological changes in INEC's electoral process. That would help maybe change or help maybe fix the anomalies. Excuse me, that INEC seems to determine what exactly happens and what doesn't happen. But I have next slide, Charlotte. So Key policy hot points for clarity in India. Now, diaspora funding was a great conversation in 2023. And everybody always, I think it was Labour Party, and they were receiving quite a lot of funds from outside. Now, I'll tell you something. Candidates within a political party can receive funds as presidential candidates, senatorial, gubernatorial, can receive funds from outside. What is not allowed by INEC and the Electoral Act is clearly that candidates cannot, parties, sorry, not candidates, cannot, I meant political parties, cannot receive funding from outside. And here's the conversation, because it clearly can show a hijack of our political parties by parties that are external. The Republican Party in the US, Democratic Party in the US, a party in Russia, a party in Germany, Labour Party in the UK. Nigeria has to protect its sovereignty, has to protect its direction. So that's a key to, understanding how everything works. And, there was a conversation. I remember the Labour Party chairman came out then and said, their party can collect funds from anywhere. Story. And, we, the people, need to understand how it works. So, of course, there are also campaign limits for candidates. So if you're running for, let's say, local government chairman, I believe the limit is about 25 million. Running for State House of Assembly, limit is about 25 million too. If you're running for governor, I think the limit is 400 million. Running for Senate, I believe it is 150. You're running for House of Rep, I think it's 100. I'm going off the top of my head. If you're running for president, I believe it has been increased to 1 billion. There are campaign limits for candidates, but we do not quantify this. And campaign limits doesn't necessarily mean what the candidate spends. It means what was spent on the campaign, whether it's a candidate, and you can't donate. I think no singular person can donate more than 50 million at a time to any political candidate. So anybody that bought you at 6 buses, if you put the prices together, that's already infringing on the campaign limits for candidates. But because the average Nigerian doesn't know this, and average Nigerian doesn't understand it, there's going to be a problem. Now, the mode of campaign engagement by candidates has also changed. The new Electoral Act, of course, does not allow, let's not say swear, but does not allow bad conversations between. You can't discredit a candidate, malign a candidate. You can't disrespectfully refer to a candidate. You also can't, do some there are a lot of things which, must keep within the order of decorum just to polish our democratic process. Now, there's also a clear, strong adherence to the rules by political parties. The Electoral Act clearly states, new Electoral Act clearly states a lot of things. Like, I'll give you an example. There's the before any convention or primaries, every political party must clearly submit a clear, what they call it, a clear soft and that's electronic and physical copy of total registered members of the political party across the country before it starts any convention, primaries, or elections. Now, none of the 18 political parties met this particular parameter, which means that in 2023, we're to follow the laws entirely. Every party's Congress and every party's primaries were null and void. But let's be calm with it. Nigerians don't know the rules. Even the people that are guiding the rules don't know the rules, so anything goes. But I have the next slide, please. And this is what I'm not quoting it. So flaws Nigeria makes, and I think I'll cite them here. I cite them here. So there's 773. This is really small. 773, which states that each political party. Charlie, can you stop moving it so that I could move it here? I really can't even see this. Each political party shall make such register available to the commission not less than 30 days before the date fixed for the party primaries, congress, or convention. Each political party shall make such register. That's 77.3 of the Electoral Act. Now, 88.1 of the Electoral Act clearly says election expenses shall not exceed the sum stipulation in section subsections 2.2. Now, 2. The minimum elections expenses to be incurred by a candidate for presidential election is 5 billion. Sorry, I missed it. 5 billion. The maximum amount for election expenses incurred by a candidate in respect of governorship elections shall not exceed 1 billion. Here is the old figures I was calling. And the maximum amount for election expenses to be incurred by a candidate in respect of senatorial and House of Rep shall not exceed 170 million respectively. In the case of state assembly, the minimum amount for election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 30 million. In the case of chairmanship of the area council, the maximum amount of election shall not exceed 30 million. In the case of councillorship election in the area council, the maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 5 million. No individual or entity shall donate more than 50 million to any candidate or campaign. And we need to know this. Next slide, please, Charlie. Do not know the law, and it's a big problem when we don't. So 92.1 clearly says a political campaign or slogan shall not be tainted with abusive language directly to injure religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. 2. Abusive, intemperate, slanderous, or base language or insinuations or innuendos designed or likely to provide violent reaction or emotion shall not be employed or used in any political campaigns. 95.1. A candidate and his political party shall campaign for elections in accordance with such rules and regulations that may be determined by the conversation. State apparatus, including me, shall not be employed to the advantage or disadvantage of any political candidate. 3. Media, that's 95.3. Media time shall be allotted equally among political parties or candidates at similar hours of the day. I want to go back to this 2. State apparatus, including media. Now, what is state apparatus? Cars, state TV, commissioners, all appointed executives. But what do we see in our country? SAs are campaigning for governor, etc. You cannot. They're appointed. You cannot. That's state apparatus. You follow that? Even the fact that we had a serving minister of state act as a campaign spokesman broke 95.2 of the Electoral Act. You see, if you want a good democracy, you must be concerned about the process. Nigerians are too concerned about the product. We want a messiah that's going to deliver us, but nobody's ready to sit down and focus on anything preceding that. Now, 84.12, no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at a convention or congress of a political party for the purpose or for the purpose of the nomination of candidates for any election. 9.6, the registration of voters, updating and revision of the register of voters under this section shall not stop later than 90 days before the election. Remember, INEC stopped the e-elections preceding 90 days. Take INEC or INEC has infringed on protect or the act which is going to provide for it. I say when I say because Nigerians don't read. People take it like Kunle is now. It feels that he, he wants to throw people on there. Someone is now saying no sound. Charlie or somebody, you could answer him.
Yeah, yes, your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking.
Godson, where have you been since? You're just
I've been here.
answering.
No. I've been here.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly now. It's loud and clear.
Okay. So in conclusion, the Electoral Act 2022 is a laudable effort to keep the Nigerian electoral process up to standard with any other democratic country in the world. More so as the country approaches the 2023, our approach to the 2023 election. There's only hope that the provisions of this act are judicially implemented to enable Nigerians to enjoy the exercise of their political franchise before and after 2023 elections. The final frontier belongs to the media space, which are tasked with the responsibility of educating the electorate as the fourth estate. Thank you, everyone. And this has been the Electoral Act. Complete Electoral Act has been sent to you guys. And I think that you guys can handle that later. So I'm open for questions. It's quite a broad listening. So I'm open for questions right now. Let's see what we'll be able to go through or do with that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Edie. That was a very wonderful presentation. So, guys, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand up and I'm going to call you. So let's do it in an orderly way. And if you're in a noisy place, you can just drop your questions in the chat so that I'll read it out. If you also have contributions you want to make, you just raise your hand and I'll ask you to unmute. Nobody's asking a question? No question in the chat. NLP.
No, so first, I need to say this, Godson. You have the slides on your class. All of you have the slides. It was provided on the Telegram group. I don't understand when people say they can't do the slides now. You have them personally. The college always provides slides. I don't understand these questions, you guys ask at this point in time. Because everything is always, before a class, preceding a class, the slides are provided for all of you. So it's always something you can go back to. During the class, when you start saying, the slides, you can't see, you don't understand what's going on, this, that. You have the slides. We provide these slides for you to. So I don't understand why this kind of conversations every class, everybody goes through it and always asks about it. But anyway, Godson, you were saying?
Okay, Edie. Yeah, we have some questions in the chat here. Someone is asking, are there penalties to defaulters who spend more than the listed amount for campaigns? One at Tobichku.
If you read the Electoral Act, what's surprising is that it stipulates what you should not do. But what it does not stipulate is who should even act. So if you carry the case that someone exceeded his campaign fund, what you're going to get is that if you go with the police or you go with EFCC, his lawyer is going to claim they don't have jurisdiction. And that's because clearly in a case, in a clear case, there's no one that's written. You saw the law as it was concocted. So for me, it was National Assembly being naughty, giving us giving us cake and still holding on to cake at the same time. So they gave you the law, but nobody has locus or nobody has jurisdiction. So anybody who can be told to be that he's out of his jurisdiction on campaign funds and etc. Well, excuse me, it's clear that he's broken the law, but nobody to possibly prosecute or place it on there. So I think That's a quagmire we need to look into and have this conversation.
All right, so Tobechukwu, I hope your question was answered. We have another question here, Edie. Philibus is asking, please, in a case where the elected individual died immediately after an election, can the vice run the office, or would there be need for another election?
I believe that question is not even supposed to surface, because once you are sworn in, that's what your vice is for. It's not a conversation. Constitution is clear on that. That's why you have a deputy governor, you have this thing. As you've seen in Ondo, is it Ondo State, when we lost Governor Akeredolu, his deputy sworn, of course, was sworn in as governor, and they're sworn into action immediately. And that's why they're two. So there's no need for another election. Once the person is sworn in, the issues are preceding the person being sworn in. Those are what the laws are for. You understand? Because we didn't have fair laws for that, preceding that. But now that we have laws for preceding the person being sworn in.
All right, thank you. Emike, I've asked you to unmute. You can go ahead and ask your question now. Hello, Emike, are you there?
Yes, I've unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So it's back to actually the first question. Given that there are no real penalties for overspending and exceeding the campaign limits, how do we go about getting the penalties at all, given that the legislative has been hijacked?
Who hijacked the legislative?
The politicians.
I don't understand when you say that. I don't think anybody has hijacked the legislative.
But as you said before, I think a couple of classes before, they are, well, I said they've gone rogue. They don't listen to the people, as you've said multiple times. They represent.
Yeah, but that does not mean someone. That does not mean someone hijacked them. Yeah, they're supposed to, but now you have a quagmire. Yeah, you have a quagmire. Number one, the people that they are supposed to represent does not understand how they are supposed to represent them. Let me ask you a question. What part of Nigeria are you from?
Edo State.
Edo State. Let me ask you a question. When somebody's campaigning for legislative position in Edo State, what they ask the person for, is it bills or executive functions like school, staff, water, and etc.? Is that not what happens?
Okay.
No, I'm asking you, is that what happens?
Well,
yes
I don't know. I've never lived in Edo State.
Okay, where do you live?
Abuja.
Is that not the same situation in Abuja? At least
they don't campaign per se.
Yes,
they don't
because
campaign.
I ran
especially
for
the last
office.
campaign, I looked out.
I ran for office in 2019, so I know. The senatorial candidates in Abuja campaign with executive functions. I'll give you school, I'll give you lights, I think I've told the story that while I was campaigning in 2019, I went to Hudumi, which is very close to Idu train station. And I remember I went there and the chief said, if I couldn't give them lights, that I should leave his palace. And I told him I couldn't give him lights, and I was thrown out of his palace. Not thrown out, but literally walked out. And sometime later, but I'll get to your question. And sometime later, when his son came back from the US, his son was schooling in the US, and he was laughing and saying young people and whatever. And I said, no, that guy was the real one. That guy was real with you. So he invited me back and we became good friends. But now, to your question, legislative is only rogue because the constituency don't know how to approach them. And the constituency didn't consider their strength in legislative organization. The Electoral College puts illiteracy in the political illiteracy in the National Assembly at 62%. Many of them have not even opened the Nigerian Constitution. So what are they going to amend? They don't even run off that conversation. So when you say the legislative have gone rogue, I don't understand it, because for me, I think the electorate has first gone rogue before the legislative went rogue. Because if the electorate hasn't gone rogue, we will not have the kind of legislators that we have now. And for me, Edo State has one of the finest legislators in this dispensation, which is Comrade Adams of Shumoli. For me, I think he should never have run for governor. He's doing so well in the National Assembly. I'm actually impressed. So, to your question, you said the funny thing is that legislative is also mandated with the power to make those laws and put those punishments under those clauses. But till we have a legislative that is country-centric or citizen-centric, I don't think they will put those laws there, because it's like making laws that will catch you with the teeth, and they are the thieves. So I don't believe anybody kidnapped the legislative. No, nobody kidnapped the legislative. Legislative is fully functional, and they know that Nigerians will tolerate what they are doing because Nigerians don't know their left and their right. That's it. So I don't think anybody kidnapped them. They understand the situation they are in, and they know how to manage it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Rachel Bassi, I've asked you to unmute. You can go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good evening, Edie. Good evening, all.
Good evening, Rachel.
So
Please,
I
can you
have
raise your
two
voice a
questions.
bit? I can't hear you clearly. Can you raise your
Okay.
voice a bit? You sound too low.
Okay, good evening, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but you need to raise your voice a little bit. It's too low.
Okay, I have two questions. First is, can citizens take political parties or candidates to court over abnormalities in the electoral processes? That's the first question. My second question is,
Can I answer
I
your
want
question?
to ask. Okay, sir. Okay.
I don't want to get you mixed up. So it depends on what context. Right now, the new Electoral Act doesn't allow, if you're not in a party. So it means if you're going to take a political party, you're going to take it to court based on its internal issues. So you can't take them to court based if you're not part of that political party or part of the process that brought out that candidate. Like now, if you're one of the people that ran in that primaries with that person, yes, you can take them to court. But someone externally cannot do it right now. Hence the case with Kashim Shettima, and the case was standard by Labour Party and PDP that he's not supposed to be the vice president. This, that. The abnormalities were plenty. But the law clearly stipulates that if you're not one of those that ran in that primaries, you cannot be part of that argument. So it has to be somebody within. So the context of citizens taking political parties to court, it's quite rare. It's an anomaly. It's different when the person is in elected position. That's when the person is under your purview. While the person is in a party and you're not a member of the party, it's odd to take them to court.
Okay, thank you, sir. So my second question goes this way. I'm asking this question because of an incident that happened in my state. So after the elections, one of the candidates that contested for the House of Assembly, like the opponent, took the person that won the case to court over impersonation. And I was wondering, where did this impersonation coming from? So we found out that during the campaigns, his media team were campaigning with the name he's popularly known as. But when the results from INEC was announced, it was announced with his official names. So that was the argument, and then he went to court that it was impersonation. He's not the one. His documents and INEC results is carrying a different name. His campaign is
How
carrying a
did
different name.
how did that case pan in court? It was useless, so it was thrown out, right?
They didn't even continue the case.
Yes, because it has no locus now. Come on. It's still the same person. Let me tell you something. If everybody knows you as, let's say, Rachel, your nickname is Rachel, and everybody knows you as Rachel everywhere, as in everything you've done, will you campaign with Rachel or Rachel? Let me ask you a question.
With Rachel.
Yeah, but does that mean that your official name is different? It doesn't. It's the name that
Okay.
it's the name that ascribes to people. So that's a very weak, if you ask me, petition to a candidate. It's very weak. It's reaching, overreaching.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Jeremiah is asking on the chat, say, what is the place of the Electoral Act when you find civil servants going into politics, and when they lose, they go back to their jobs like nothing happened?
How is it supposed to be? I don't understand. So you want them to leave everything and then just go because they went into politics. You of course, it's a civil service. You're supposed to leave it. And once you're done with the political cycle, it doesn't pay you. You come back. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think questions I'm hearing from here are mostly emotional, mostly emotional than real questions, that are intriguing. But it's nothing. They should be able to go back. Politics is it's a wind of change. It works this minute, doesn't work the next minute. You go back and do what you're doing.
All right, thank you, Edie. Jeremiah, I hope your question is answered. Rabbi Moritala, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask your question. Rabbi. Rabbi, are you there? Okay, let's go to Ibrahim Jare. Ibrahim, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Can you hear me now?
Good evening, Brian. I can hear you.
Thanks so much for the presentation.
I'm hearing two people. I'm hearing two people, please.
Ibrahim, your background is very noisy. Please, can you? Your background is very noisy. I think it's better now. You can go ahead.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Good evening, sir. As a young generation and educated politician, what significant changes have you noticed in 2015 elections, that is before the Electoral Act review, and 2023 elections, that is after the Electoral Act review? Do you notice any significant changes in these two elections, sir?
Okay. If I'm to draw my view, I'll draw it from 2019 and 2023, actually, not even 2015. There are massive in 2023. In 2019, it was harder for smaller political parties to foray within the system. Now it is easier for them to foray because of the long campaign time and stipulation given to most political parties. It is also easier for other political parties now to have a conversation because apart from the extended time frame, there's a law which actually forces everybody to give at least, they don't give equal time, but at least they give some time to other political parties. And this has been very instrumental in exposing a lot of political parties. Considering we do not have 92 again and we have 18, it's been very instrumental. And the time I ran, there were 92. Confidently, as of the time I ran for Senate in Abuja, there were 31 candidates, I believe. 31. So I'd have to deal with 30 other people, which was complicated. But now, even if all political parties pull in, it's only 17 other candidates. So I think that it's allowed for a more level playing field. We're not saying this is what it's supposed to be, but it's more level than it was earlier. And I also think that though we have not keyed into most of the laws, eventually sometime maybe 2027, we key into most of the laws are applicable for us to achieve this.
Thank you so much, Edie. Ibrahim, I hope your question was answered. Okay. So we'll go to Micah. Micah Achimugu, I've asked you to unmute. You can go ahead and ask a question.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Micah.
Okay. Thank you for the class, Edie. I don't know if people can hear me as much. I'm on the road.
You can hear you.
Okay. While during the class, you mentioned there was something you said. You said political appointees and the other two types of appointees you mentioned. And then you said they must first step down from their office before they run as an agent or as a candidate in elections. I want to take you back to the case of the former president of the Senate, the former Senate president. I can't remember his name as much, but during his time, I think there was a case like that in Adama when he, sir?
Ibrahim Long.
Okay, Ibrahim Lawal, yes. There was a case where he ran for a seat in his state's
Ibrahim
Lawal.
Lawal.
Senate House. Yes, Ibrahim Lawal.
Ibrahim
And
Lawal
then
is from Lawan is from Yobe, not Adama.
Adama, okay, Yobe. But I remember he ran for a seat. I can't remember the facts of that case as much, but it went to court and eventually he won that case against the person because during the time when he contested for that seat, he was still the Senate president and he didn't step down, as contrary to the Electoral Act of 2022. So I'm asking a question now. In his case, they waived it and he won that case. Was it a fault on the part of the judiciary, or there was a point I was seeing?
I want to ask you, is the Senate president a political appointee?
Sir?
Is the Senate president a political appointee?
No, he's elected.
Oh, so why are you using the same parameters of a political appointee to an elected?
Actually, I thought it was both that have to step down from their positions.
And that means the president too will step down when he's running now. God, chill now.
Thank you, sir.
And the discrepancy, I'll say this. Discrepancy between Ahmed Lawan and the issue was that he was running for president, and there's a law that states you can't run for two positions at the same. You can't contest two separate primaries at the same time. So that was his issue. Not that he was elected Senate president and he had to step down. So he ran for president. When he saw it didn't work out, he went back and he collected his primaries. So that was the discrepancy with the former Senate president. Thank you.
Okay, Micah, I hope your question was answered. So Rabi, I'm coming back to you. You can unmute now and ask your question. Rabi Moritala.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Can you hear me, sir?
Can hear you, Rabi. Good evening.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
okay, thanks so much for the presentation. I really enjoy it. But okay, my question is concerning the appointees position they do campaign when it's time for election. What are the things when you say according to the act is not normal, but what are the ways? Is there a way that they can sanction them if such a people can campaign when they are giving them a position?
The truth is that, and I'll be honest, the truth is that the law states that it's against the law, but that same law does not give locus to anybody to sanction, or also does not give locus on anyone to punish. So it is like an open-ended law. Do not do this, but there's no sanction, there's no one in jurisdiction to handle. Hello?
Hello, thank you, Edie. Rabi, I hope your question has been answered, and that's very clear. So Edie, someone is asking David Moses. As it relates to campaign and funding.
I lost you for a second. Could you go back?
Okay. David Moses is asking, is there a department or unit in INEC that oversees the financial flow of candidates as it relates to campaign and funding donation? Or better still, how do INEC track the financial donation to parties?
I know there's an M&E, monitoring and evaluation in INEC, which I think the financial aspects of candidates are under. They also claim to monitor finances of candidates, but you can't ask me INEC questions. I can't answer for INEC. I don't work for INEC. But I know that there are people there that are supposed to work, but whether they do their work now, it's not, I don't have that jurisdiction.
All right. Thank you, Edie. David, I hope your question is answered. Maybe you might need to do some more research to find out to ask more questions. At this point, we don't have any more questions, no more hands up. Do we still have more questions? No, so Edie, we don't have any more questions and no more hands up. So I don't know if you have any final words for the class as concerning Electoral Act.
Now, it'll be good if you go as a citizen and overlook the Electoral Act clearly. I also think that it will be very instrumental to pay attention to it without a bias. I think it's critical that we need to start looking at such things and doing such things, and understanding that we are part of the country. So thank you, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you in class on Saturday.
Thank you, Edie. Before we go, I want to present the certificate of return to the newly elected AMAC chairman. So congratulations to Labour Party. And on behalf of the INEC of the Electoral College, this is presented to Esther Eberechi Chukwuemeka. She's the person elected as chairman, AMAC LGA, on the election held on the 16th of May 2024, sponsored by Labour Party, Electoral Act XIV. So congratulations to you, Esther, and congratulations, Labour Party. If you're here, you can just show with a raise of hands, just raise your hand so you can just accept the certificate and say one or two words. Okay, I've asked you to unmute, Esther. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Electoral College Nigeria. Thank you for everyone that voted. Thank you for your participation and your support. It really means a lot to me, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Wait, that's a comeback first. Thank you for everyone that voted. The people that did not vote for you, so you're like, Buhari, you're doing 5% that voted for me, and the 95% that did not vote for me will suffer. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Okay, let me give this speech again. Okay, I want to thank oh my God. Okay, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the Electoral College Nigeria for the opportunity to even venture into this process, the election process, and all of that. Thank you for those that voted. Thank you the opposing parties and everyone that didn't also vote. I really learned a lot from the process, and yes.
Thank you, Esther, and I hope we're very proud of you. I'd like to say something, and I'd like to commend the Labour Party. I loved your dedication to the campaign. I loved the presentation for the campaigns. I was so proud of it. I was using your video to show this is not favoritism. This is respect for hard work, for dedication, and tenacity. So I'm proud of the Labour Party. And I'll say the ED is ready to give you the ED star, meaning I'm looking at you, and I wish you guys a lot more. It's good to see, a lot of work being done and people translating what you teach them into practicals. I think you've done that. This is a challenge to other parties that were lukewarm. people that decided to submit assignments past 4 o'clock, to those who decided not to even attend debates, to those whose candidates did not know that there was election, there was debate till 10 minutes before debate. I think Labour Party has clearly exemplified in that election what the Electoral College is hoping to achieve. So I would not mince words. I will commend the Labour Party on it. If you want me to commend you, and this is not favoritism, if you want me to commend you, act within the status and the presence in which we provide you standards to act. If you don't do that, you will, of course, be in flagrant opposition to me and what I think of the electoral process. So thank you, Labour Party, for at least showing the grit and making me know that we at least taught you something. Thank you very much, Esther. And, it's proud to see a woman in this also. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Edie. Thank you for all that you do for the country. Congratulations once again, Esther. Congratulations, Labour Party. And at this point, we call it a wrap for today's class. See you in class tomorrow evening by 5 p.m. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Godson, for hosting this class. Nobody told you thank you. And Godson, what's this new posing now? You're wearing glasses. Godson.
I've always worn glasses all the time.
I know, but there's one new, what word you put? Vibes. Let me use your language. Some new vibes to it, you know. I'm just messing with you. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you so
Well
much,
done.
sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
bye.
Good night. Yeah.
Night.